First of all, what was here? Everybody was here. It's okay. Yeah, DJ, well done. First of all, just wish long life to Mum, Auntie Susan.
Hi, Auntie Susan.
And to thank Mum for bringing the strudels. Despite the fact coming from Yerushalayim 4 o'clock this afternoon, nevertheless, showed up with the strudels. Well done. What? Excellent. And Lizette and I, down Deborah Lee, I'm very delighted, and thank you all for coming along. Erev Yom Kippur, I'm sure you've got other things to be doing. To hear their Shiur. Tonight is the Yahrzeit of Grandma Maisie, who knew all about war. She started married life in Liverpool.
Yeah, it was a war there.
To avoid the Nazi bombers, she went with her very young baby daughter, Auntie Abigail Allah Hashalom, to live in Leeds, where my grandfather was from. However, they were further evacuated to a place called Summerbridge, near Harrogate. I looked on Google Maps today. This is what there is on Google Maps about Summerbridge.
Pretty.
Pretty. Near Downton Abbey, by the way. Losing it at Downton Abbey. They got to Summerbridge, and my grandma packed up all her pots and pans because she obviously wanted to be kosher, did not wish to eat the whatever trade food they're eating out there in Summerbridge. So she rocks up at the place where they were supposed to live in Summerbridge, and to my grandma's absolute horror, the very nice landlady took my Auntie Abigail's little dish that she was going to have food from, and she put it on the floor and put the dog food. Auntie Abigail's dish and gave it to the dog. So on the same day, my grandma turned around and evacuated the evacuation and went back to Leeds and said, I'll take my chances with the Nazi bombers. Family and keeping our traditions were her main values. And I would say she had the most positive personality of anybody I ever met. She had a love affair with all her 6 grandsons, and of course enjoyed every minute spent with her great-grandchildren when they started to come along. We have some in the house, in the room, and on the Zoom. She liked nothing more than to be picked up by one of us and taken for a cup of tea at Betty's in Harrogate. Talking of the grandsons, it's quite remarkable that we all support quite a variety of football teams. We have Leeds. Where is he? Jason? Oh, a few other.
Not you, Benji.
Nick, relatively late starter, Liverpool and his family. Newcastle. And the S word. But one thing is for sure, despite the fact we all support different teams, we all love each other. And maybe this is a lesson from my grandma on leadership. Rabbi Brovender, we are very grateful to have you with us. First of all, Mazal Tov to Rabbi Brovender, great-grandchildren, quite a few great-grandchildren born of late, and we even have his son Eliezer, the new grandfather. Mazal Tov with us tonight.
Mazal Tov.
I welcome to Rabbi Sachs, who is the head of the Rabbi Shiva, Rabbi is the Rosh Shiva. We are very grateful to have you with us again in person this year. It's been a while. I hope somebody's given you a scotch. Otherwise, I might not come back for another 5 years. Many times over the years, I introduced Rabbi Brovender as my own personal Torah educator, which started almost the day I made Aliyah, around about 30 years ago. What I should also point out is that Rabbi Brovender is also my own personal comedian. And seeing as how we are in person, and we have a few people in the house tonight from the OIM Early Minyan, for reasons that are still not clear to me, I do the drasha in the Early Minyan a couple of times a year. And most of what I have to say is based on your Torah. So on behalf of all of us, thank you very much. Although I will point out the jokes are actually mine. Anyway, without further ado, Rabbi Brovender, please.
Thank you. I may have a little bit difficulty speaking up, but before you mention it to me, I'm sure you want to listen. Maybe you need some more scotch.
Out of here, you.
At the end of the parasha of Ha'azim, and at the end of the parasha of Sotah Bracha, both ends discuss, describe, teach us about the death of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu received a lot of credit when he died. And the beginning of the story of the death of Moshe Rabbeinu is a curious pasuk. And the pasuk says, "You see that sheep." It's at the very end. The pasuk says that there Hashem el Moshe be'etzem hayom hazeh lemot. Be'etzem hayom hazeh. What does that mean? What is be'etzem hayom hazeh? I mean, it could be something like on that very day, or on the day of days, or on the day of, take your pick. It's not clear. That's how I always say. Then the story goes on. It talks about how Moshe Rabbeinu asked for a reprieve. He was, after all, going to be punished along with Aaron HaKohen and not allowed to go into Eretz Canaan. But for some reason, Moshe Rabbeinu thought it was an argumentative point. I mean, you would think, or I would think in this case, on your behalf, you would think that Moshe Rabbeinu knew that Hashem was not going to let him go. I mean, after all, it was Moshe Rabbeinu's job to know what was going on. And in his relationship to God, I would imagine that Moshe Rabbeinu understood that there were times that God was not going to change, that the position adopted would remain. So how are we to understand, generally speaking, the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu was going to argue the case? It wasn't a done deal, even though as we'll see a little bit further in the parasha of Ben Chanan, it's clearly stated by Moshe Rabbeinu that it was a done deal. And yet, he continues to ask for her plea. We understand why Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to go to Eretz Yisrael. I mean, he spent 40 years of his life explaining to Bnei Yisrael why Eretz Yisrael was the most wondrous thing that you could imagine from all points of view. At the end of the 40 years, you wouldn't want to just like hop over, just to take a gaze at the wondrous land that he had talked about all those years. Or if you have a more chazal type of attitude, you might say, Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to do the mitzvot that could only be done in Eretz Yisrael, in Eretz Canaan, the mitzvot that we call Kuliyot Ba'aretz, the mitzvot that are connected to part of only possible to do in Eretz Yisrael, in Eretz Canaan. So you could say that. But again, the question remains, what did Moshe really think? Did he really think that God would change his mind because he supplicated it? So I remind you of the pasuk at the beginning of that Hanan, which is on the sheet, like 3 down on the right. I like these sheets. They always find them encouraging. That Hanan el Hashem ve'itahi lemo. Moshe Rabbeinu speaks, I'm going to Hanan el Hashem. Rashi says about, the Rashi is right there. Ein Hanun b'kol makom, elo l'shom matnat chinam. Rashi has this strange idea that you can make one word into another word. And when you make one word into another word, so you just go with the new word. It's sort of like, because that Hanan is one of the 10 verbs connected to prayer in Torah, the Tanakh. And Rashi doesn't say that. It says, Hanan Chet Nun Nun is the same as Chet Nun Mem. And Matmat Chinam means I want something for nothing. So Moshe Rabbeinu went to Kodesh Baruch and said, I don't deserve it. I didn't do what I should have done. It didn't work out exactly as it might have. But let me in anyway. Let me in anyway. That's Matmat Chinam. I have appreciation. It's at the king with both the Matzah and the Forbid. I ended up choosing the gold element. But somehow, Rashi knows that there's a problem with his own interpretation. His interpretation is something for nothing. And Moshe said, Lakaret Baruch Vet Chanan. Vet Chanan means something for nothing. So Rashi then says, even though the righteous, that's Moshe Rabbeinu, could have said, Moshe Rabbeinu could have said, look, I did the job. I got the meeting. I got the job. Well, they're ready to go in Eretz Canaan. I mean, it wasn't easy. Saying to Kadosh Baruch Hu, so, and you didn't tell me, Moshe Rabbeinu to Kadosh Baruch Hu, you didn't tell me how difficult it's going to be. What an unruly group this is. How difficult they're going to make it for me to move along. And what did I do? I hit the rockets. I was talking to the rockets. I mean, we're not going into that. We all know that that's a problematic construct. Okay. So he says, Hashem Elokim so Moshe Rabbeinu starts by promoting his relationship to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Not only did I do what I was supposed to do, but I'm the only one who actually recognizes what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is. And I'm the only one who is able to pass it on to others in as far as it was passed on to others. I mean, Moshe Rabbeinu did not claim that he was the greatest success of all time, that he deserved a cover story in Time magazine. He didn't say that. He said, who else is there besides me? I mean, if you don't let me go to Eretz Canaan, you stop me from this, what are the people going to say? What are the people going to say about this whole enterprise? You know that during the 40 years of the desert, Moshe Rabbeinu, to think about it, the book of Bamidbar, Moshe Rabbeinu put up with a lot. There was a lot of denial of leadership of Moshe Rabbeinu. There was a lot of denial of his understanding of what he was doing. A lot. And so when he comes back on his book, it says, just let me look at the land. It's very hard to imagine that this request will not be accepted. But it was not accepted. Let's go back to that first one. It's a very, very nice standard.
What's that?
It's a very nice standard.
It's Benji, thank you.
Whoever's in it. So the Pasuk says, again, says this very good, on this very day. On this very day, he said, it says to Moshe Rabbeinu again, that's you got it. You're not going into Canaan, not going to, we'll take you up on the mountain, we'll take a look. Take a look, imagine going to a tourist station and getting that kind of response. You're not going to go. There's nothing you can do. So Rashi, I think Rashi felt the weight of this pasuk and the need to say something. Say something. How did Moshe Rabbeinu end his career and end his life in this kind of environment. So Rashi said this. You see the tension notes. Rashi says this. So Rashi is quoting a Sifri. But it doesn't matter what Rashi is quoting. Rashi's Rashi. Right? Just like we all learn the Chumash from Rashi. We still learn the Chumash from Rashi. But we recognize the fact that Rashi gets most of the information from someplace. He didn't make it up. He learned it, but he's passing it on. So Rashi said this. If you look in the Chumash, you can do that without Google. You just like that. Let's look at the Chumash. So we look, and he says in the Chumash. The Chumash, there are 3 places where the phrase "V'etzem hayom hazeh" appears. This happens to be incorrect, but we'll fix it. Because actually the number of times it says V'etzem hayom hazeh is 4 and not 3. But we'll leave that aside for a moment, if you will. But then it says V'etzem hayom hazeh. Ne'emar b'noach, first is b'noach. V'etzem hayom hazeh b'noach. It says about Noach. Noach was the beginning of the new world. There's the old world of Adam and Chava. And there's the new world of Noach and his family, the new world. So it says there, Noach. The Marot Oro, the Etzem hayom hazeh, Noach, the third line. The Marot Oro shel yom. In the light of day, Rashi said. Rashi could have just said in the light of day. You have to tell me about Noah. But he felt somehow that just saying the light of day is not going to do it. He's got to tell me what's going on. Why do you have to mention that the death of Moshe is going to be in daylight? Everything happens in daylight. I mean, before fluorescent light was daylight. They had to wait for daylight. But what's the point? What's the point? So the Rashi goes on and says, so this is what was happening. Which means that the people in the generation of Noah, he was like there were a lot of people around. The flood was going to take care of them, but there were a lot of them at that time. It says, they would swear on their gods. If we see that he's really going to do this, Noah is going to do this, and we go into the ark, and the ark is going to float away, and everybody's going to die, we're going to stop it. We'll stop this whole thing from happening. In other words, we lived in a time when people believed in things. And we live in a different time. In those days, the days of Noah, everybody believed in something. So the other God, I was like a little nervous. I didn't want to take up an issue with your God. Who knows what your God can do to me? I didn't know about one God at that time. It says, we're not going to allow history to go on. We're going to stop it. We'll stop it. I don't know, drink it, because not only are we not going to allow it into the ark, but we're going to take weapons of destruction. It's a famous folk song. We're going to take weapons of destruction and we're going to destroy the Teva. We won't let it happen. In other words, the way I understand it is that people understood that there was a radical change in the history of the created world about to unfold. And they were against it because they weren't part of it. They weren't included. But they didn't know. Noah said, come with me. Join up. You could be part of the new world. And they didn't know because they liked the gods that they had. But then Noah said to them, I'm doing it. And they said, we got to stop it. We got to stop. How are we going to stop it? Oh, well, you stop things. You make a war. You fight the battle. And then you stop it. So that it's not the end yet, right? The end is America is Areni Machmiso Bechatzi Hayom. שנאמר בעצם היום הזה, הוציא הקדוש ברוך הוא. Okay. So he says, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to show them that there's no turning back the wheels of history. How will I do that? I'll tell Noah and his family and the animals all going into the Teva. Go into the Teva. I'll tell them, go into the Teva in the middle of the day. I want everybody to see. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I want everybody to see and to know that this was planned by the great God of Noah, who can do as he wills. So that's the Etzem Hayom Hazeh, according to Noah. Because the Rashi goes on into the not only Shiyesh Biyado Korach Minchot, there will be Minchot. So HaKadosh said, we will see that's the power. Minchot. So you see the issue, according to this Rashi, is who runs the history of the created world? Who's in charge? And the issue was that the people didn't understand what it was that was going on. The next case, Mitzvah, is right there. The fish are you only say the name of their gods. Even if we see them trying to escape Egypt, we're not going to allow them. We won't allow them to do it. We're going to stop them. Again, you have God running history, creating the nation of Israel, changing the face of the world, and the Egyptians even say, we don't want that change. We don't want to live that way. So God said, I'm going to do it. It's bright and light, and everybody can see what it is that is happening. Everybody knows that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is running the world. And then Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Areni Motzi'an B'Chatzi Hayom. So those are two examples, Noah and Yetziat Mitzrayim. Rashi concludes, Avkar b'mitato shel Moshe ve'emar b'etzem hayom hazeh. When Moshe Rabbeinu died, our pasuk right here, the pasuk says b'etzem hayom hazeh. So what was the b'etzem hayom hazeh when Moshe Rabbeinu died? The fish are you Yisrael, Omrim b'kaf b'kaf, B'nei Yisrael, B'nei Yisrael, Omrim b'kaf b'kaf, which means they also called upon gods. B'nei Yisrael, what they called upon God, I can't say. don't think Rashi would say it exactly the same way, but it comes out the same way. The Vision Yisrael Akim Anu Magishimo and Anu Manichim. If we feel, the Bnei Yisrael said, if we feel that he is going to die, we're going to stop it. I don't know how we're going to stop it. Are we going to stop it somehow? We'll complain. We'll reject this opportunity. And so he goes on and says, בעצם היום הזה, לפי שהיו ישראל אומרים בכך וכך, אם אנו מרגישים בו, אנו מניחים אותו. We see that he's about to die, we're not going to let him die. אדם שהוציאנו ממצרים, the people of Israel, Moshe Rabbeinu's clients, they're saying, אדם שהוציאנו ממצרים, took us out of Mitzrayim, and קרא לנו את הים, he split the sea, והוריד לנו את המן, he brought us to man, והגיש לנו את הסלם, brought us to סלם, והעלה לנו את הבאר, and he brought up the water in the well, ונתן לנו את התורה, אין אנו מניחים אותו. We're not going to allow him to die. Not going to allow him to die. Mark of the Prophet already must be sold with Hatsi Hayom. The Prophet said, already must be sold with Hatsi Hayom. So we see that there are 3 cases. In fact, there are 4. If you look at the sheet, the very bottom of the sheet is a little bit. Reshit Ber Yahrzeit, Pesukah Gimel Vayikach Avraham et Yishmael v'lo v'kol v'ridei v'kol v'kol v'knet hatzvotot zakar v'anshei beit Avraham, talking about the event of Brit Milah. Everybody in the household of Avraham Avinu was circumcised, all the males was circumcised. Vayamel B'sar Aratam B'etzem Hayom Hazeh. So there really are 4 times when Rashi insists on 3 and doesn't mention the 4th. So that, if we were learning, that would be a real problem. If you're not learning so much, you can say, hey, forgot it. Maybe somebody erased it. I don't think it's like that. Is the first 2 examples, the example of Noah and Mitzrayim, are really understandable because your conception of history, of what's going to be, how God is going to run the world for your benefit, is something that is not easily achieved for a large number of people. Something that you want to give into. You want to give into your understanding of the future. And you see now, you can watch, I've had the pleasure of watching these television programs where you have people denying Israel, like a new kind of game that they play. And basically, what they come up with as a point of denial is that we have a different understanding of the future. Okay, I don't mind that. I just think I mind if they mind my understanding of the future. That it's like current. It's happening right before our eyes. Not that I can tell you what you should do about it, but it's happening. So the determination of history is given over to the people who about that determination from a Baruch. Learn about it from Baruch or from the representatives of Baruch. But that doesn't really help us to understand why it says that's in the Roman said by Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is going to die, and they don't want him to die. So what is it that Moshe Rabbeinu, and what is it that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying to Moshe Rabbeinu? What HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying to Moshe Rabbeinu is, you have one final tafkid, one final job that you have to do for the people of Israel. And that final job is to die. Because you, Moshe Rabbeinu, are the danger to the existence of the Jewish people. Because what would happen if you didn't die? What would happen if you lived? Then the people would say, we want the leadership of Moshe Rabbeinu. We want only Moshe Rabbeinu. We want him. He got us out of Mitzrayim, and he got us water from the well, and he got us all the good things. We have the Torah, and all of this comes from Moshe Rabbeinu. So people will say, we could do that. We could continue with that. You don't want. So there's no said it was important to do Moshe Rabbeinu to emphasize that you're limited, that you're not forever. You're good, and the people who follow you are good, and the people who are interested in you are good, but you have one job left to do, and that's to die. That's what my Lama said. To die in a way that everybody knows and reflects on that. The food, it's an after word, after. When the children and the family, the male children and families of Avram Avinu were circumcised, there was no opposition. There was nothing to deny. It was the wondrous thing that there was a miracle, there was a tzivui, a command that Moshe Rabbeinu, that Avram Avinu could see things are getting bad. That Avram Avinu had to live up to. And that was to circumcise everybody. There was no opposition. No opposition. This answer is given by several students of Rashi. I mean, other than myself. I'm happy to be here, of course. And I hope we'll do it again. In my case, it's not always so obvious. But I'm going to, thank you, but I'm going to try to hang in there. Okay. Bye. Let's see what they will do.